everybody, and welcome to the Film Star review of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Rogue One follows the group of rebels that obtained the Death Star plans before Episode 4. Now, I am a huge Star Wars nerd, and if you follow this channel, you know that I actually reviewed every Star Wars movie leading up to The Force Awakens, and of course I reviewed The Force Awakens itself. And I'm sorry to report that I can't say that I loved Rogue One. It's a good movie, but it's really not that great. There is a good core to this movie. Jyn and Cassian are the best part of this film by far. Those two characters are the ones with true arcs that are well defined and fleshed out. I really think that Felicity Jones is able to fill up some of the holes in the script of her fantastic performance, and Cassian really just has the most solidly written arc. It's just solid throughout. However, my biggest problem with this movie is every other character is super thin in one note, which is really disappointing because there are some great ideas for these characters. I mean, you have actors like Mads Mikkelsen and Donnie Yen and Ben Mendelsohn, and this movie decides to really underuse them. This movie is essentially just part 2 of let's underuse Mads Mikkelsen 2K16. I thought that he didn't have a lot to do in Doctor Strange, but he has even less to do in this movie. And it's a real shame because he's a fantastic actor. And Riz Ahmed, who's also a fantastic actor, he was in Nightcrawler, is really, really thin as this Imperial defector, which is an interesting character, but we never actually get a sense of his relationship with Galen Erso. So I don't know why Bodhi is really doing any of the things he does. The biggest disappointment in terms of the characters were with Baze and Chirrut, because there are some really interesting core ideas to these characters. Baze is supposed to be this guy who was a strong believer in the Force and has lost his way and does not believe in the Force anymore, which is a really cool idea because we haven't really seen that in the Star Wars universe before. But instead of using this interesting character idea, it's relegated to a one-line throwaway, and instead he's just a gruff guy who looks after Chirrut. And it becomes boring. Not to mention, I don't even know why Chirrut and Baze even stay around. I know that there's like, some people say like, well, they don't have anywhere to go, but we don't get any lines about this. They just follow around and do stuff, and there's just no reason for them to. They can just go off and live a peaceful life. We don't know why they have to get involved with this plan. I do say there is a core of goodness in this film. There are other positives. Gareth Edwards' directing is great. I think that the action scenes are executed beautifully. They're shot better than almost any Star Wars movie ever. The cinematography is beautiful. The DP who did Zero Dark 30 did this movie, so it looks fantastic. You've seen some of these shots in the trailer, like the Death Star covering up the sun, or when the Death Star comes up over top of Scarif. That stuff is gorgeous, I love it, but the intimate character moments just don't flesh it out into a fully done experience. Sticking to the positives, I also really liked the political struggle inside the Empire. You really did see Ben Mendelsohn's character in his struggles with wanting to have control of the Death Star over Grand Moff Tarkin, the way he takes it to Vader and basically complains going over top of his superior. It's an interesting idea because we really only got a glimpse of that in Episode 4. But the problem is that I don't really understand why Ben Mendelsohn wants power. Does he just want it because he's a guy on the Empire side? He could really be flipped out for pretty much any person on the Empire, and it would be the same character. But yes, the actual political moves are interesting. But there are other negatives to this side of the Empire. For example, the CGI recreation of Peter Cushing is awful. He looks so rubbery and fake. Yeah, it's better than the stuff we've seen before, but that doesn't make this good. The way his eyes are red, it makes it look like he did a bunch of cocaine before they did this. It just looks awful, and it takes me out of the movie every time I see it. I know this review makes it seem like I'm hating on this movie, but there really were things I liked. The action sequence in Jeddah was great. Seeing the inner workings of both sides were great. The Rebel Alliance is equally as interesting on the political side. But this movie relies so much on fan service. And that's why I think there are these hardcore Star Wars fans who are forgiving of this movie because they have, like, blue milk and, well, one thing I'm not going to give away, but there's a scene on Jeddah where it's just a super forced cameo that doesn't even make any logical sense. And when they don't make sense, they're not adding to the story. When they don't add to the story, I get distracted. I don't get wooed by that stuff. I understand it, but I don't get wooed by it. Instead, I get annoyed. I want Rogue One to stand on its own, and I felt like this movie relied far too much on fan service, and it really bugs me. I only have one more complaint, and that is with the character of Saw Gerrera. Now, I follow the extended lore, so I already know about the character, and he has been done very well in other aspects of the extended lore. In fact, he is a really cool idea. I mean, he's supposed to be this extremist on the rebel side. But the problem with this movie is, one, Forrest Whitaker's performance is very distracting. His voice is barely audible at times, and that causes there to be a lot of distraction with his character, especially with his weird suit. And then besides that part, I can let that go if he actually saw him do anything extreme in this movie. Everything Saw Gerrera does is actually way more subtle and less explosive than everything the supposed non-extremists do in this movie. So when Saw Gerrera does this one tiny little thing in one city, and he's called the extremist, and the Rebel Alliance is out here, and they literally attack a Empire base, and then we call Saw Gerrera the extremist. It just doesn't make sense. And this movie has some serious logic problems. One in particular with the final action scene, which is very well executed. But when you don't have characters you care about, I am only going to be impressed with the action scenes. And when I'm only impressed, I'm not sucked in. I could only marvel at your achievements, and I don't get into the experience. I will finish on a high note, though, because the Vader scenes in this movie, now there aren't a lot of them, so don't expect a Vader movie, but when Vader shows up, he is incredible, so you can look forward to that. Overall, I thought this movie was a very enjoyable Star Wars movie. The action scenes are great, but I feel like to achieve these action scenes, they decided that they were going to sacrifice good, fleshed-out characters. And to me, just impressive action scenes without characters to root for is not what makes a good Star Wars movie. So even though I think this is a very entertaining blockbuster movie, it wasn't a very good Star Wars film. So I'm kind of having this weird balance here where it's a good movie, but I expect more from a film with this title. So I am going to give this movie a B-. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I am so sorry I've been gone for so long. But to be honest, I didn't see a lot of movies this year. But with the crazy schedule that's coming out in 2017, I am totally planning on seeing many more films this year. And before I start doing 2017 movies, I am going to catch up on a few movies that I have seen recently, including Nocturnal Animals and La La Land, and I'm going to give a top 5 of 2016. I really can't give you more than 5 because I only saw like 8 movies that I really loved. So that's that. Thank you for watching. You can like the video, and you can subscribe to my channel if you want more content. 2017, I am going to do more reviews. I promise.